They might talk about humor, music, film, books, football and box sets, exercise and maybe even food, trivia and sports, politics and health, sometimes well-being too. On the Life with Brian. On the Life with Brian.
Coming up on Life with Brian.
I think I might be one of only a few people that have hosted Soccer AM and been on Songs of Praise.
But you don't want to be stuck next to him far too long because he just talks about himself.
I had a hair transplant last year. I've had laser hair removal on various parts of my body. I've got a ridiculous sports car that I'm petrified of driving and a 15-year-old MG. So I think I've put
Hello, welcome to Life with Brian, episode 55. I'm Mark Godfrey, and with me is Matthew. Hello, Matthew.
Hello, Mark. You all right?
I'm all right. And, of course, we've got Mr. Brian McClare with us. How are you doing, Brian?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Before we introduce our guest, what have you been up to since we last recorded?
I have been watching a lot of badminton. And
Okay. Is that a euphemism or?
No, I have. No, I've been watching badminton, so I've been chauffeuring to the badminton and watching the badminton seniors. Very impressive, I must say.
Well, okay. There's so many questions to ask there. I don't think we should bother. I think we just...
So, joining us on our latest adventure through sound is a comedian, actor and presenter who has featured on all sorts of TV shows and not once but twice sang God Save the King in football grounds in the wake of the old Queen's death. It's a big Life with Brian welcome to Lloyd Griffith. How are you, Lloyd?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for having me. An honour.
Yep.
Pleasure to have you. How on earth did those gigs at Grimsby and Brentford come about?
Well, the thing is, so I started off as a classically trained singer, so became a choir boy when I was a young lad, and then that was all I ever wanted to do. I just wanted to sing, and I was quite lucky that I got the opportunities I did. I grew up in a very working class house down a very working class street in Grimsby, probably not synonymous with classical music, and was able to sing in this amazing church choir. And that's basically, that's all I ever wanted to do. Obviously, I wanted to play football and be a goalkeeper, but that, for obvious reasons, mainly height and weight based, didn't happen. And so read music at university, became a classic trained singer. And long story short, got into comedy, did a bit of acting. And then the Venn diagram kind of came together a few years back when sadly the Queen passed away. And Grimsby Town, who I've been a lifelong fan of, they know that I sing. And they said, look, we've just got some guidelines from the EFL and, we need to sing the national anthem. Would you mind doing it for us? So, again, an amazing opportunity. And, the merging of the two worlds I absolutely love. So it was nice to be able to actually perform on Blundell Park, with doing my professional kind of career. And the last time it happened was 1952 when Bill Shankly was actually the Grimsby Town manager. So there's a load of pictures coming around of that week, and so I was like, oh right, well this is quite nice, steeped in history. Then did that, and then Arsenal, Brentford, Sky got in touch and said, look, we saw you did it at Grimsby, fancy doing it, Brentford, Arsenal on Sunday. So yeah, did that, and again a lovely little moment. Doesn't happen that often. And the main thing was just to get the words right, because it caught a lot of people out, and it's not ideal if you get it wrong in front of however many million people on Super Sunday.
That's a nice little teaser, because we were saying earlier on that, Brian was saying earlier on that, having done his incredibly deep research that he always does in all our guests, he was saying that you were one of the most fascinating people he's planning to speak to. So, Brian, what's that all about?
I just think that because like they said there, Lloyd was mentioning the Venn diagram. That Venn diagram is quite extensive, really. They just find out lots of little things depending on what you're looking at. So we usually start with football. Lloyd, can I take you back to the 27th of April 1993, which I believe, which could be erroneous, was your first game at the aforementioned Blundell Park. A testimonial game.
It was, yeah.
For John Cottrell, who was playing against his brother, Glenn, of Southampton. Do you remember anything about it?
I remember the whole game. It was absolutely freezing. And John Cockrell's mum used to be the receptionist at our school. So that's how we kind of like, it came about. She said, oh, do you want to come to John's testimonial? So I went, me and my mum went, and it was absolutely Baltic. It was so cold. It was unbelievably cold. And that was my like first memory of being like, oh, I don't want to be here for that. Like, it's absolutely freezing. And then you warm after a couple of bovrils and stuff. When I actually look back later on, I actually did an article about my first ever game, and I looked back at the programme. I managed to get hold of a programme. Alan Shearer was on the bench as a young wee whippersnapper for Southampton. So I can't remember the score. I remember
2-1.
Was it 2-1? I'm assuming to Grimsby. So
2-1 Grimsby.
Got presented a massive kind of like life-size mural at half time, and I just assumed that happened every game, that a player would just be given a portrait of themselves at half time. I was like, this is quite nice.
Probably does in some leagues.
Steve Sherwood, the goalkeeper, was wearing. It was so cold. He was wearing like a full-on, like a boiler suit. You know what I mean? Because obviously he wasn't taking that, so he was wearing a boiler suit. So there was a lot of.
Are you sure this was April?
Oh, honestly, Grimsby all year round is absolutely freezing. All year round. And also, when you're in the upper Finders, you've basically just got the River Humber just flying into your face. So, it's an amazing stadium. But yeah, I remember that. But I have to say, one of my first ever games of football was at Old Trafford.
Yeah, there's a bit of an elephant in the room here, isn't there? Because you're famously a big Grimsby Town fan, but you kind of moonlighted, didn't you, watching a certain United team containing a certain Brian McClare?
I had an affair when I was a young kid with Manchester United. Basically, my cousin Sam, she married a bloke called Bob. Shout out Bob, because he'll be listening. Brian, like, he's one of your biggest fans. Like, it's unbelievable. And they used to go to Old Trafford pretty much every Saturday. And Bob had been going for years and years and years. This is 1991, I want to say. And it was actually cheaper. So my mum used to work at Wimpy in Grimsby on a Saturday. It was actually cheaper for her to buy a £9 junior ticket for me to go in the Stretford End and be looked after by Sam and Bob and go with my cousins, Matt and Jem, than it was for her to get a babysitter for the whole day. So that's what I did. So I used to get in the Rover 75. Actually, do you know what? I said it was a Rover 75 in an interview years ago, and so I went, well, actually, the Rover 75 wasn't actually put into production in England. And I was like, right, okay, you're trying to... It was a Rover. I can't remember what model it was. It was a burgundy Rover, and it was Old Trafford, I want to say September, October 1991, Nottingham Forest. Man United lost that day. Stuart Pearce scored the only goal. But then it was the year that United won the Rumbelows Cup, where I do believe he scored.
Yeah, October 1990, I think that was. It was a free kick, wasn't it?
Stuart Pearce free kick. I can't remember.
Yeah.
I just remember Bob being so angry that he turned the radio off when we got in the car, and then we had to basically go down the M62, M180, A180 in absolute silence.
So you were watching United in peaks of turnaround time, weren't you?
You know what? Let me go and grab the basically
the start of it.
I went. So first game was like 1990, and I'd go for a few years. I'd go like pretty much most home games, and then as I did more choir singing, I was like needed to sing in like weddings on a Saturday and stuff like that. So it didn't lend itself. But actually, I've got this picture here that's on me. I got given it as a bit of a joke. That's me and Eric Cantona.
Oh, young Roy Keane there.
Yeah.
So
you went to the games and you've got the kit as well.
Well, basically, I bought that.
This is more than an affair.
Again, that photo was in the article, and someone went, "Oh, well, that's weird because you said 1992, but that's the theatre of the top that they wore in so-and-so." And I was like, "Yeah, I bought the top. Okay, I bought the top. I was obsessed with Man United goalkeepers as a kid." So Les Seeley, Gary Welsh, Peter Schmeichel. I was just obsessed with Man United goalkeepers, with Man United goalkeeper kits. That's what I was just like, utterly obsessed with them. It was a weird little thing that I had. And so I went and bought this from this market on Grimsby, Tuptown Market. I'm not entirely sure it's legit, but he signed it, and then my mum washed it, and then the autograph came off that top.
No.
Absolute shout out to my mum. It has a history of like shrinking things or boiling things or whatever. So, but yeah, so I did go to Old Trafford, a fair few times. It was great. It was absolutely great. I loved it.
No conflict. I mean, a lot lesser people, I think, would have been wowed by going to United every week and maybe turn their back on Grimsby. You obviously didn't.
No, I didn't. And I think as I grew older, and just like, things happened out there. And I went to a lot more Grimsby Town games, and I just kind of fell in love with that. And, whilst back at Old Trafford in 1990, like, it was still big, but there was like a sense of community there. Like, we'd go if we weren't going in the Rover, whatever it was, we'd be going on a coach from the Trawl in Grimsby, and stuff like that. So, you definitely felt part of something. But at Grimsby, it was down the road. It was cheaper than £9. And then, it came on from there. Like, not to get the old violins out, but I grew up a single parent family, so there's no father figure to take me to Grimsby Town games. Like, my auntie's boyfriend used to take me to a few. My mum took me to a couple, and then it was just trying to find out who takes you and stuff. But ever since I've got older, I'd say like from the age of like 14, 15, the love affair with Man United, with Grimsby Town, kind of like grew and grew and grew. And yeah, I go to a lot of games now, probably to the detriment of my career.
You must have witnessed a few key United games, though. I mean, the Forest won United 0, probably not one of them, but that going in that era, that was on the cusp of them winning leagues and going on to great things.
100%, some amazing things, some really bad. I was at the game where David Boost broke his leg, and that forever. We were about 20 rows away from that happening, and it was like that was a moment where. Yeah, I still think about it quite regularly. It's quite weird. I know that a lot of the players had to have therapy and stuff, but me and my cousin still talk about it. How mad that was at the time. It was a talking point. Before the days of the internet, everyone knew about that. That afternoon, it had circulated on 5 Live and stuff like that. Quite a lot of games where Eric Cantona would score like single goals. I can't remember exactly what season.
And Brian McClare, of course.
Oh yeah, but honestly, that whole team, like growing up, do you know what I mean? Like Brian, Clayton, Dennis, Paul. I'm talking them all first names if I mates them, and I'm not. Although I've played a few games of football with Clayton Blackmore, who's still got it.
Well, yeah, just the interesting things. A couple of things that always spring to mind about Clayton during the brawl that allegedly I started at Old Trafford against Arsenal.
Oh, there's no allegedly.
20 minutes. Well, it's allegedly, right?
It's not. Dennis Irwin was on the overlap the other week.
Yeah, well,
blaming you for this entirely, and you've admitted it.
And but Clayton just Lloyd. I thought it was up until now. You're talking about your Rover thing and people pointing out things about it wasn't made then. No, that is United kit. I've always said from that kind of moment it was a 21-man brawl because clearly I remember that David Seaman, whose nickname's Spunky, couldn't be arsed leaving his goals, right? Because he thought by the time he wandered down there it'd be over, and it was. Until Clayton Blackmore, only last year I think, admitted that he didn't take part in it either. And I'm going, why would you do this now, Clayton? Why would you admit that you were basically running away like a coward, rather than... And he was really proud of it. But you're like Clayton can remember some amazing things about football. He can remember scoring goals in training.
Really?
Yeah. He's just like, when we both were working in the academy about 10 or 11 years ago, we're walking over to watch one of the kids' games, and he goes, yeah, remember that one, when I bent it into the top corner against Jazza? And I'm like that. I don't remember any opposition goalkeeper being called Jazza. What are you on about? What game was that? Yeah, I remember in training against Jim Layton, I gave him the eyes, I'm like, Clayton, come on. He can remember. He remembers so many things about. It's just amazing what he remembers, So, but you don't want to be stuck next to him far too long because he just talks about himself. But he can still play.
Well, I have to say, I don't know how Clayton is now. We played in a competitive football match. It was a charity football match. But I'm saying it was officiated. It weren't just a kickabout in a park. And he was arguably one of the best players on the pitch. He was playing everywhere. He was playing absolutely everywhere. And it was just, it was great. And again, actually, when you talk about the training, he took training really seriously. We had a little training session in a United's training ground, actually the old training ground. And in the dome, and we had shooting practice, and he weren't missing. He was not missing, and he was taking it very seriously. But it was great. Do you know what I mean? Having grown up, watching him, and be like, oh my god, he's taking shots against me. And I saved him. I'm saved the majority of them, to be fair to him.
Brian, I think I'll ask him about that, and he'll really tell me exactly what it was, and exactly how many goals he scored, and how many you saved.
Is it not on his Wikipedia page? He's amended his stats. Brian, you were alluding to some wormholes you went down earlier. Don't let me.
It was just there when this isn't really one that was on my sheet, but when you were talking about your mum there. I believe that she's got an interesting and successful way of picking a fantasy football team.
Oh my god! Oh my god! I mean, back in that, these are just different times, but back in the day, she used to work at a restaurant called the Sidewalk, and they always used to do fantasy football. But it was when you'd basically pick 11 or maybe 12 or 13 players, and then you'd have to post it to the Telegraph. And then it was locked in, and that was your team, and then they would update it. So this is if someone broke their leg or whatever, that's it. You only had 10 players, but that's just back in the day when you probably only had 2 or 3 subs. And she basically oh god, she's gonna absolutely kill me for this. She basically just chose the blokes that she fancied, and they were all very attractive. I'd say black men. So in goal was David James, probably Paul Parker, Rufus Brevitt, Dwight York, Trevor Sinclair, Andy Cole, and she beat everyone else in the restaurant. Her team actually, and obviously it turns out she had a type. But yeah, her team, her fantasy football team, actually beat the majority of the men. I think every man actually in that restaurant that year. So. That was she would absolutely hate this being on the podcast, but I mean, and she does listen to pretty much everything I do. So shout out, Mum.
Fair play, Brian, for your meticulous.
No, just when you mentioned. I was just saying, just when you mentioned.
Where was that? Where had I mentioned that before? Crikey!
Well, you mentioned it. You mentioned it somewhere else 2 years ago. He didn't go into as much detail as he did there, but he did mention about the. And around about the time you were probably working in Soccer AM, around about that stuff when it was all. I think you'd said you were in several fantasy football leagues, a comedians football league, a Tuesday afternoon football league, football, fantasy football, all sorts of different things, and that you mentioned about. Different ways of picking teams.
Well, do you know what? I've actually stopped doing fantasy football this year. This season that we're currently in, I stopped doing it because it was genuinely affecting my mood. And I was like, I don't know why I'm getting so emotionally involved as to whether Harry Wilson starts a game for Fulham, do you know what I mean? or whether Tariq Lamptey's having a good. I was like, I don't actually care. And it was really good during the Soccer AM days because it basically meant that I was interested in all the players, and it kept me involved and stuff like that. Whereas now, I'm like, I'm doing various different bits and bobs. If I forget a week, then I get really angry about it. And I was, angry with myself. I'm not a football manager. And then people say, "Oh, you're not doing very well this season." Like, it doesn't fucking matter. Like, you know what I mean?
You should have taken a leap out of Brian's book, because we did a fantasy team, a live with Brian fantasy team last season. And Brian went out of his way to try and become the worst. His view was to try and become bottom of the league rather than top. And I think you succeeded, didn't you?
Almost bottom, yeah.
Did he pick mostly Manchester United players?
Oh no, I wouldn't pick any. I couldn't, Lloyd. Could not pick any City players.
No.
I couldn't pick any Liverpool players, and I couldn't pick any Chelsea players. I just couldn't pick any of them because of just my bizarre thoughts about those particular, or Newcastle either, because they got taken over. So out of the top 5 teams, I've get rid of all the. Well, you're talking about everybody, almost everybody in every other team either had Salah and Haaland, or both of them.
Yeah, he actually had some loose change left, I think, after picking the team, didn't you? The quality of the players you
And so that was my view of doing it. If I'd heard about your mother's method, I might have gone down that way.
I think if you there's easy ways of doing it. Do you know what I mean? Just going for attractive men that you find. I think it's an easy way to do it.
It's the equivalent of backing a racehorse that you like the name or the colours, isn't it?
Of course, yeah.
It's effective. Sometimes it works and probably evens itself out. Brian,
your tour, the Baroque and Roll, was that named after the Acoustic Strawbs album of 2001?
Oh, mate, you're the first person to mention to kind of draw that analogy, but sadly not. No, it was all about my midlife crises that I'm having. So I turned 40 the other year. So yeah, 41 now. And when I wrote it, I just turned 40, and I was having a series of midlife crises. Like you probably can't see because the sun's blinding down. But I had a hair transplant last year. I've had laser hair removal on various parts of my body. I've got a ridiculous sports car that I'm petrified of driving, and a 15-year-old MG. So I think I busted him. So I called it Baroque and Roll because Baroque's like my favourite period of music, along with Renaissance music. And then I was like, Baroque and rock and roll. Most men at a certain age, pick up a guitar and try and think they're rock and roll stars. So I want to be like a Baroque and Roll star. And then I did the show, and about 3 weeks ago, one of my best mates, Steve, went, "Why didn't you call it Call the Midlife?" And I was like, that's so much better. He was like, "You on a motorbike?" I was like, "Yeah, that's much. I wish I'd have thought of that 3 years ago."
Well, that's the name of the next tour sorted, isn't it? 45, 46, you'll be going through another midlife crisis.
The midlife crisis, it seemingly is ever evolving. So, but yeah, so that was fun. That was fun. But it basically talks about all my various midlife crises. And what was really interesting was just the amount of people in my, in the audiences that had quite similar midlife crises. Be it buying a motorbike or taking up cycling or getting a divorce. You know what I mean? So there was a lot of people. I've got a lovely audiences that come to my shows, and they're very open. Bless them.
Is it mostly men that have?
No, not at all.
No.
So I got one of my support acts, Lee Peart, is a lad from Grimsby, and he's a gay lad, and he was like, "Oh, I'm a little bit worried that all your crowd are just gonna be like lads." I was like, "Mate, they are the loveliest crowds ever." I'd say mostly couples, a lot of people in groups, but mostly couples and varying ages, like early 20s through to late 60s and stuff. So yeah, they're great. And again, I think it's because I do a number of things. They might have seen me support Jack Whitehall, or might have been from Soccer AM or singing bits and bobs, or it could be literally from anything. I used to have a YouTube channel where I did football fan reactions, where I just emulated what I thought a fan was thinking from that game week and stuff. So there's various different things where I think people come along. So yeah, the occasional kind of group of lads, but not really.
Yeah. What's the equivalent of a midlife crisis for an ex-Premier League footballer, Brian? Take up fishing or...
Grow a beard.
Would be, let's grow a beard and get your hair to grow your hair real long, grow a beard, don't get your hair cut for a year, that sort of thing, and then become unrecognisable.
Yeah.
Is that why you've done it? Is it to...
No, it was a COVID experiment.
Was it?
Yeah, because I'd never... Apart from a little period of time when I had a bit of a mullet in the when would that be? Late 80s, late 80s. I'd never had long hair, and what I discovered was that actually I've got it's curly at the bottom. So if I grow it long enough, it goes curly, which I never knew in my life that it was like that. So I just left it, and then. I quite enjoyed the fact that what it was like, but really wild, and but then I went viral because of a picture in a pub in Manchester. And then the joke is always I'm unrecognisable, but everybody recognises me. Everybody, all over the place, So
the plan is now for Brian to cut his hair, shave his beard, dye it brown. Go back for that 89-90 United look, and no one's going to know who the hell he is.
Yeah, it could be my 60s crisis. Yeah.
Embrace it.
You're listening to Life with Brian.
He got asked about it in an interview that's on YouTube, and he just said something like, "Oh, I don't know what this meat festival thing is. Everyone's always on about it. I don't understand it." So,
I was given £15 by a teacher at school and asked to buy a pornographic video for that teacher. I mean, you look at it now, it's so out of order.
My recollection was of the tackle, and then I definitely got 2 kicks in the back.
Well, they were definitely from Brian. If you look at the video, it was definitely.
Well, there you go. He got his own back.
Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Your article you did in the Guardian in November about your hair was hilarious. I was crying loud at that one.
Yeah, it's
it's just great. I thought so open, honest, and very funny.
Yeah, it's a weird one because like they approached me to do an article about why I got the hair transplant, and like Eva Wiseman, who commissioned me for it, who I love her writing. She does a lot of stuff in the Guardian. I think she's brilliant. And she'd go deeper. Every single time I'd give her a draft shot. No, go deeper. What? And I was like, oh God, it was a real. And it was at the same time I was doing the show as well. And it did, it probably gave me more questions. Like probably better than a therapy session. Do you know what I mean? Going through that. And I think, I got to 40 and I was like very, very, quite happy with where I am and stuff. But my hair was always a thing that I just had. And then the next thing you know, you hadn't got it. And I think as well with the job that I do you know what I mean? Like, I'm doing increasingly like more acting and stuff. I was just petrified that people were going to go, oh yeah, great, but just not enough hair. Which they're not going to do that. And realistically probably opens more roles for me to like not have hair. And you look at the amount of people that, that act that don't have hair. It's like, well, what were you thinking of? But yeah, it was just something that I was just, I was bored of hiding the fact that I didn't have hair. That was the thing more than anything. I was just bored of hiding the fact that I didn't have hair. And I've been waiting for like medical advances to get to a point where I go, I think this is the best it's going to be for a long time. Like we'd seen, the various hair plugs. Wayne Rooney obviously came under criticism for not having a great one, but like at least he went and did it. Like he went and did it. He really, I'm not sure why he went and did it, but he went and did it. And it highlighted, like that they probably weren't there yet. And then so many people have been and gone and done it since and stuff. And, quite lucky to have been quite a few friends with footballers from Soccer AM days and what have you. And so I could use them as a support network. I'd see that, on close friends stories, oh, he's had his hair done and stuff like that. So I could chat to them. So I just wanted to be open about it. And I have on Instagram, like I did a video that got a fair few thousand, views, and the same on TikTok. And I wouldn't say I'm like the Martin Lewis of, hair transplants, but I'm always there to offer help and advice. And people come up to me, oh, where did you go? How much did it cost? What's the situation? So I'm like just trying to give as much insight as possible because it is a bit of a dark art situation. Whereas if you don't know someone that's done it, but what I have increasingly found out is that we are the new vegans. Like people who have had hair transplants, Jesus Christ, we talk about it. It's like just give me a tiny little bit of enthusiasm and like the truth. Yeah, you guys haven't spoken for 3 minutes, so it's I will happily talk about it until the cows come home, and they often do.
Well, going back to Clayton Blackmore, Clayton's always liked his hair and abused his hair really a number of times in ways he used to get it dyed. And again, he came into, when we were working in the academy, came in one evening in Manchester United, and I was looking at his hair and I was just about to say to him, Clayton, for fuck's sake, just take the plunge, shave it all off, right? There's no problem with being, look round about the coaches room, there's several other coaches in here who have astutely challenged. Not long after that, 2 of them got that thing, where you get it tattooed. Oh, yeah. Yeah, 2 of them got it tattooed, right? So anyway, I don't know why, because it's not like me not to just come out with this comment, So I didn't actually say it to Clayton. That weekend, one of the academy kids brought in an article from the paper, a bit like your article, of how Clayton had been staring at these hands transplant pictures and magazines and all that, and his missus says, look, you've got to go and get it done. And he he'd only got it done about 3 weeks before, and I'm just about to tell him that it was shit and get it shaved off, right? And the article was about him feeling better about himself, about the years, you know. And I've nearly put him right back down into the pit, you know, by saying. So, yeah.
You're keeping very quiet on this subject, Mark, aren't you? I've noticed that.
Well, I'm 48 years old. I've got 30 years experience near enough of having no hair. So, I can't be bothered with spending the money for what reason. I think I was just, I think I could be bothered.
Going, I suppose there is that.
I was spending like, I'd say it's not a huge monetary amount, but like 30 quid a month on the sprinkles that I basically like pop in my hair. And that, that's fine, but it was the logistics of getting up every day and having to do that. Like, I added an extra like 10 minutes. Again, not too much, but then it was just the anxiety of going through the day of just being like, if the wind blows and I look like, the third or fourth Charlton brother, do you know what I mean? Just hair like flapping all over the shop. And I was like, I just not entirely sure, it was like, even like, when I was in my single kind of like era, going on dates and just like worrying what I'd have to tell her, like why my pillow's got black sprinkles on it the next morning. And stuff like that. It was, I was like, do you know what? I'm just going to have to, I'm biting the bullet. And then I did, and do you know what? It was honestly, it was one of the best things I've ever done. You're in a day. It cost me $6,000, which I'd saved up. I've been thinking about this for ages. I mean, it wasn't like I think a lot of people think it's like 10, 15, 20 grand, and it's it isn't that anymore. You can go to Turkey, you can go to other European cities and stuff like that. But yeah, it's like I wake up in the morning, I have a shower. And there's still bits like, that need filling out that will hopefully fill out in the next few months. But I had it done in, 5 months ago. So it's we're getting there. We're slowly getting there. And then I think basically just have a mullet. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, go for the McClare Celtic look.
Did you get rid of the dark blue pillowcases?
Yeah, so I basically bought these dark blue pillowcases. I was dating this girl. And it was like date 3 or date 4, and it was quite obvious that, she might be staying over and having a little sleepover. And I was worried about her seeing the black sprinkles, so I basically just went to John Lewis and bought some blue pillowcases just to hide them. But yeah, I did get rid of those after a little while. We're back to, I'm actually using a silk pillowcase.
Very nice.
What I've been talking about on Brian McClare's podcast, but here we go. So basically, I got these pillowcases. Apparently, they're quite good for your skin and also quite good for hair growth. So again, anything to try and make it sprout a little bit quicker.
I love the fact that we bring this kind of stuff up on the podcast, don't you, Mark?
Absolutely.
That 9-year-old that was wandering around Blundell Park and then Old Trafford not long after that must have been dreaming of being on Mastermind and Pointless.
Yeah.
Now, I watched Mastermind, and it seems to me that the questions you were asked had a lot more words in them and therefore longer than your opponents. Is that just me, or...?
No, it's not just you. People have got... There's a big... So I did Celebrity Mastermind, and I'm a big... I like a lot of weird things. Like I love fire engines. Well, actually, to be fair, up there on the can you see that up there?
Yeah.
There's a fire helmet just up there.
Yeah,
I love fire engines. Actually, just below that is a signed Peter Schmeichel glove. Just there, a Reusch one from the 90s. And then this is my cathedral wall, where it's just a wall of cathedrals that I've sung at and stuff. And I was like, do you know what? I'm going to do English cathedrals. I could have done Peter Schmeichel. The Manchester United years. Absolutely. I could have done Clive Mendonca, Town. I probably could have done, I probably wouldn't have done fire engines, but I was like, do you know what? I'm going to do cathedrals. And so many people got in touch with me afterwards. It was like first off, so they asked me a question, and I said Tracy Enim.
Yeah, I know. You didn't get a point for that. No, he's kidding there, isn't he?
I lost my head. So the edit works. Basically, it wasn't until we'd finished the round that a lady came downstairs and was like, "You said Enim, not Emin." I was like, "Yeah, but everyone got what I meant. Like, I didn't say Pablo Picasso, did I? Do you know what I mean? Like, you got who it was." And then, I'm really sorry, it's Mastermind. And I was like, what are you on about? And all the other contestants are like, oh, I'll give him the point. They're like, no, we have to get the names right. I was like, okay, well, that's funny because you actually got the name wrong on my plane ticket, which actually reprinted. We're all in the same boat together, I guess, aren't we? So I lost my head. But in the edit, there's just like a wild. I probably shouldn't be saying this, but there's a wild. Basically, Clive had to go, oh, close. It's actually Emin, not Enim. But that was they just put that in the edit. So I didn't react to getting it wrong because I got it right because Clive was like correct and moved on. So I didn't have a right to reply. So I was fuming. And then I'd say so many people, I'd say maybe 7 to 10 people got in touch with me and was like, do you know what? I actually think that your questions are much longer than the other ones. I've watched it back again and I was like, do you know what? I thought of that as well. I answered all of the Ian Wright ones apart from the Ray Parlour answer. I was like, even the Pete Sampras one. I mean, it's quite obviously it was going to be Andre Agassi. I mean, the US Open, the Australian Open, and an Alsatian. So I was like, what? Come on. So yeah, as you can tell, I'm over it.
Well,
over it.
You came. We'll be kind and say you came fourth, which is good enough for a Champions League place.
Hey, look, Mark. If I'd have done the quiz the day before, okay, which I did watch, I'd have been first. Okay, any other day, I'd have absolutely nailed it. And also, like, I did lose my head.
Yeah,
general knowledge because it was just sitting in my head, and everyone was like, "Lloyd, you just got to forget it." I was like, "I cannot forget it." I honestly, I got so drunk that night.
Well, when I watched Mastermind since I was a young boy, all the way back, and never got any answers right either in particularly special subjects, but not even in the general knowledge. Now, I didn't think anybody would get asked what is the name for a baby cow and also the name of a muscle on your leg.
That really?
Yeah. Yeah, that was a question.
Some of the
not for you. You didn't get that one. So
no, some of the questions.
Answered the calf, and she paused thinking about it. I'm thinking, okay, now is this? I thought it might have been a trick. Is this a trick question? This, some
of the questions on the Celebrity Mastermind ones for the general knowledge are insane. Where again, you think, is this a hoax? Is this a sketch? But then when you sat in that seat and they do get harder, you're like, oh, I'm so glad I got those first 4 right because And again, I've watched episodes of it where I'm not throwing no shade to some of the celebrities, but they are thick as pig shit. Where they're asking very simple questions, going, "Oh my god, how are you not getting this?" But oh, yeah.
Don't worry, you'll be able to redeem yourself with our very special Life with Brian a bit later in the show. Lovely. But we'll get there.
Yeah, well, and at least you got Clive Myrie did get you an audition to sing the traditional FA Cup final hymn "Abide with Me." Have the FA been in touch to book you for the final in May?
Weirdly not, no. And what annoys me a little bit, and not annoys me, but when they get singers to sing the national anthem for England games especially, a lot of the time those singers aren't fans. I'm like, why don't you just try and get fans that are like classically trained singers and get them to do it, because it will mean a lot more. And look, this is obviously me being a bit of a narcissist, but like if you like, and I'm not saying everyone knows who I am, but when I go to England games, mainly because I go with Rob Beckett to quite a lot and we get drunk, and a few years they went viral and that lot. So when I go to England games, people are like, "All right, Lloyd, I mean, I was in Germany last year, people know you are." If I'm singing the national anthem beforehand, I think more people are inclined to join in and just get involved and say, "Oh, it's Lloyd," and stuff like that. I also do have a dream of me being the national anthem teacher to the England football team as well. And also, happy to basically take any nation that wants, for the highest bidder if England aren't involved. Interested even. So, I'd love to be able to teach the England players, because it is like the idea of singing the national anthem for a football match, if you break it down, is insane. Do you know what I mean? Millions, if not billions, well, probably maybe billions of money is spent to get a national squad to where they are today. Do you know what I mean? Be that through academy, through like St George's Park or their respective kind of centres in the different countries. And then before they go out and play one of the biggest games of their career, they're like, just before you go and perform in front of obviously 8,000 here, but then millions at home, do you mind just singing a little song? And it's like, all right, when's that? Oh, it'll be 90 seconds before the game. Right, okay, cool. Any training? No training. Will there be a camera? Yeah, there'll be a camera. It'll be about 1.5 feet away from your face. Right. what happens if I don't sing it? Oh, if you don't sing it, everyone will call you a heretic and the Daily Mail do a front page spread. If I sing it really badly, then the Sun will take the piss out of you. It's like, okay, great. So you're really left with no choice. I'm like, why not get someone like me, to come and teach the lads how to sing the national anthem?
This brings up something I wanted to mention to you about this sort of combination you've got of a musical career and a comedy stroke acting career. It seems almost, well, I'd say unique, but it's pretty unusual, isn't it? I mean, was it your last tour you sort of threw in musical numbers, didn't you? So that's...
On the last tour I didn't, but the tour before I did, yeah. So I basically, I try and sing as much as possible. Do you know what I mean? Because it's something that I've spent years, training and stuff, and I still have singing lessons now. I've got 2 amazing singing teachers, and I go with them. I've actually got an inner ear infection at the moment, so I've had to cancel a singing lesson this week because I just won't be able to hear what I'm singing. But yeah, I like to try and combine the two as often as I can, and I've got a few little projects that are happening at the moment that I'm hoping to bring to fruition that meld those two. And again, I think it's nice to have like a bit of a USP, and also as well, if you love something so much, it's nice to be able to be passionate about it and bring it to the fore. I do a little bit of presenting on Classic FM as well, and I've actually had a few mates who are footballers like messaging me like, do you know what? I've started listening to Classic FM now. Do you know what I mean? And not that I simplify it or dumb it down, but I think it's just the accessibility of going, all right, if Lloyd's talking about classical music, then I might be able to get into it. I think there's a lot of barriers and a lot of things that sometimes are deemed more middle class than others. Be it golf, cricket, or classical music. So I think if we can do as many things as possible, I was just given a very rare opportunity as a young kid that was just a mad situation. So I'd quite like to pass that on.
It's almost, I don't mean to be demeaning, but it's almost like a throwback to the sort of music hall days, isn't it, really? To combine 100%. Comedy and music, and something that not really a lot of stand-up comedians have ever really embraced.
Harry Seacombe, obviously a comic actor, he used to, sing all the time on Songs of Praise. So I think I might be one of only a few people that have hosted Soccer AM and been on Songs of Praise. Definitely at least sung on there. So, but yeah, so I like to, Joe Lycett, who's a fantastic comedian who I absolutely adore. They said something to me years ago. He said, basically, I sat with Joe, and it was along the lines of, I don't want to have the same career as anybody else. And you can see from Joe that is absolutely the case. They've gone off and they've done all sorts of things, and you kind of go, Joe's very unique. And so I've tried to adopt that. Sometimes I've been sucked in, and but the majority of the time I'm like, right, I want to do stuff that only I can do. So that's the aim, really. It's just and not to stand out from the crowd, but to have just like to have something a little bit different.
Yeah.
I mean, something a bit different than I'm used to.
And that there might be a few gigs coming up now that they go compare fellas in a bit of hot water.
Come on, Mark. Throw no controversy. This time. I was going to say, talking of strings to your bow, I mean, for a football fan such as yourself, appearing on Ted Lasso has got to be the ideal gig, hasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and so Ted Lasso came about quite. I was actually supposed to be doing another project, which actually fell through. The reason why I actually left Soccer M, I was for another project, which actually didn't come to fruition, which was a bit frustrating. And then I got asked to audition for quite a few of the little shows. I got asked to audition for a show which had a working title at the time, which then became It's a Sin, which was I was like a tiny little role in It's a Sin. Russell T Davies's It's a Sin. But then that was great because then Russell T Davies put me in something else a few years later on, which was amazing. And he's an unbelievable writer and showrunner. And then also I was in a film with Mark Wahlberg. And I was like, well, this is great. Do you know what I mean? Like, the other job's not happened, but I'm in this film with Mark Wahlberg. I'm doing this thing with Russell T Davies. And then there was also Ted Lasso. And Ted Lasso, of the three things, I was like, oh, well, I guess we'll see what that is. And, it was just paying like a reporter. And I knew a few of the actors in the show already. So I knew Brett Goldstein, who plays Roy Kent, Nick Mohammed, who plays Nate, and also Ellie Taylor, who plays Rebecca's best friend. And he was all like, oh, well, it was an advert. Essentially, it was an advert that was promoting the Premier League in the US, and then they kind of developed it into a sitcom. So it was very much like I guess we'll just see what happens here. Nobody, I think, knew they thought it would probably be successful. Otherwise, why are you doing it? But to the level at which, it was just, it went cataclysmic, stratospheric. It was unbelievable. I went away last year, 2 years ago, to LA, and I was getting recognised in the street. I'm a tiny little part in Ted Lasso, tiny little part, but getting recognised in the street for being Lloyd the reporter from Grimsby. Very tough acting job for me, that was. A bit away.
It's a stretch.
A bit of a straw, the clothes were, yeah. Do you know what I mean? Look, great. And, what I will say about that show is everyone that was on that show was just the most amazing person. What it looked like, on the screen was exactly what it was like to film. It was just like there was not a bad bit of vibe in sight. It was just absolutely incredible, and also just the most supportive people. Like, it's been said a number of times, but Jason Sudeikis, whilst he was obviously the main character, was obviously heavily involved as an exec in developing it, was just the most supportive person on set. If there were anyone had any anxieties or anything like that, and especially during filming during COVID, he was just it was great. And that was an amazing experience, and I'm just hoping that another series comes again, because there's always rumours that go around. I've not heard anything about it officially, but I'm like, it would be brilliant, wouldn't it? Do you know what I mean? Because my mortgage rate's gone up.
And you recently portrayed Paul Henry, the actor who played the iconic Benny in Crossroads. So one for the kids there. Yeah.
That was an interesting one. I basically got the audition again. That was a Russell T Davies show, and with the same director, Peter Hoare. And they said, "Look, will you just put a tape? We just film this. There's a little self-tape." So I did that, and then got the job. And that was working with some unbelievable actors: Con O'Neill, Helena Bonham Carter, Augie Prue, some unbelievable actors. And that was interesting as well, because it was the first time where I'd had to play someone that was actually someone. And actually someone as well. Do you know what I mean? So people knew Benny. You know what I mean? You talk about Crossroads, and Benny's probably the first name that people, say. So there was, I had to do a lot of research, a lot of watching of Crossroads over the years. You know what I mean? Trying to kind of get his character as much as possible, whilst also be sympathetic, because, he was playing someone that necessarily, was, he'd had like a complex upbringing. And I think, then also you're playing the actor that played him, who is still alive. So then you're just, it was a really interesting thing. And then there were some days where I was playing Benny, but I was playing Paul, but dressed as Benny. So then you just had to get your head around that. And obviously they had very different attitudes and stuff. So, but that was amazing. And to work with Helena Bonham Carter, I mean, obviously there was a whole, ensemble cast there, but, growing up watching Helena Bonham Carter, and again, just the loveliest person you'll ever meet. And I nearly called her by mistake in the car about 3 months ago. Mm-hmm. I was driving back, and I said, there's this band from Grimsby called Healer, and they've got a song called Bones. And I was like, oh, Siri, play Healer, Bones. And he said, calling Helena Bonham Carter. I was like, no. It was like 1 a.m. coming back from a gig with a lad called Matthew. I was like, no, like throwing my phone out the window. So, but in fact, I'm looking at on that same shelf that I pointed out. She actually, as a little leaving present, she brought a bag of plastic feet and hands in. Like, that was her leaving present. So there's this bag. She's like, okay, guys, help yourself. And you're like, it's the weirdest thing ever. But you kind of go, well, it's great, because now I've got a little plastic foot on my shelf that Helena Bonham Carter gave me. So, that's the only heirloom I've got, I'd say.
You could have one. You could have one of these.
Oh, look at that!
We were talking about the worth of a Brian McClare Corinthian figure earlier on, but I think Brian's is worth more than mine.
Previously on Life with Brian.
At that point, it was scrambled. I think I just took in my whole surroundings, thinking I'm actually here on bloody Mastermind, and things weren't going so well.
And then Sam Allardyce walked in, and I said, "All right, Sam, how are you? My name's Emmett." He goes, "I know who you were. I've been up since 3 a.m, fucking watching you."
And I'm like, to the listeners, like, I'm 100% gay, but like, fuck's sake, Mum, calm down. Just get me a Donna Summer album. Just get me a Donna Summer album and that'll be fine. Do you know what I mean?
Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. I just wanted to say that my favourite impression of tape was Parcel.
Parcel tape.
Yeah, that was my favourite one.
Yeah.
Oh, that was the best, yeah.
So I got a tooth knocked out. Well, I say I got a tooth knocked out. It was a fight with a Cabbage Crunchy, and it won, actually. Word of warning, never put a Cabbage Crunchy in the fridge because it is like metal. Anyway, this crunchy, tooth fell out. And at the time, I was a student. I was like, however much for an implant? I was like, well, I'm obviously not going to pay that. Do you know what I mean? When there's booze to be had. And later on down the line, I was like, okay, I'll save up to have this a tooth implant. And then I was just doing a sound test once, and I was just mucking about with, before a gig, and just did that. And I was, that's quite funny, that. It's like a dolphin. And then you're going, can I make that into a bit? Can that fill 5 minutes? And then the next thing you know, it's like probably one of my most viral clips of me just doing sellotape and gaffer tape impressions. So it's, it is a bit weird. And like all my comedian mates always take the piss out of me. They're like, you still doing the tape? I am like, look, annoyingly, it's one of the most requested things. If I'm doing a gig, people are like, you're going to do your tape impressions? I'm like, yeah, fine, fair enough. I mean, not the carefully crafted 15-minute routine about me going to Monaco. No, do you know what I mean? It's that. So you go, yeah, okay, cool. And then even my friends now are like, oh, fucking hell, he's getting the tape out again. It's either that or the elephant. And I'm like, let me tell you, it's probably a good job I'm not doing the elephant.
I've just got a couple of things. I'm very envious of you being given your degree by Florella Benjamin.
Oh, my God.
And allegedly you got a cuddle as well. I think this is the second mention of Florella Benjamin.
Yeah, it is.
We had
Sanjeev Kohli.
Yeah,
really.
She gave him a rifle swearing, I think, didn't she?
That's right. Yeah.
So I went to University of Exeter, and there was a change in Chancellor whilst I was there. It was Florella Benjamin, and I grew up watching Florella Benjamin. Do you know what I mean? She was like part of everyone of like my kind of era's, upbringing. And so I think everyone was just so excited, like, oh my God, we're going to get given our degree by Florella Benjamin. And I went up and she was there. And there's that, I think in previous years, it was very much a handshake, you get off. But she didn't. She was mentioned. The ceremony went on for fucking hours. Sorry, she doesn't this for bloody hours. But everyone just had their little moment with Florella Benjamin, and it was great. It was absolutely, it was lovely. You know what I mean? Seeing this like lady, play school, wasn't it? Play school.
Yeah.
And then you're literally at, big school. And you're getting, you got your little cloak on and your little hood, and you're getting your little scroll and stuff, and she's there, and it's like, it's full circle. Do you know what I mean? She was there at play school, and then she's giving you your degree. I remember I had a little hug, just a little embrace, and then she just went, follow your dreams. And I remember going, okay, great. And then a few weeks back, I'd seen her, and I was on the way to do Classic FM on, I think it was a Sunday. I think I was standing in for Stephen Mangan on Classic FM. And Classic FM has always been a show that I wanted to host. I was like, because I used to listen to it growing up. I mean, we used to listen to Radio 1 and Radio 2 as a kid, but also Mum would stick Classic FM on just to, try and chill me and my sister out. And obviously, having done a degree in music and, been a professional singer, always listened to Classic FM and Radio 3 and stuff. And then, very lucky enough to, well, I basically said to my agent, I was like, look, I'd love to get on Classic FM. I'd love to get on Classic FM, and did a couple of like audition tapes, and it took a little while, and then we got it. And when I walked past Florella Benjamin, and I was on the way to Classic FM, I always wanted to say to her, like, Florella, you embraced me in 2006 and told me to follow my dreams, and I'm about to go and do stand-in on Classic FM. I'm following my dreams. But then basically got brushed out of the way by a big security guard.
Was it Big Ted?
It was. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
We're going to have to try and get Florella on there, because, like you say, that's the second mention we've had.
Yeah, it is.
Sandy,
I think she'd just been to the premiere of Paddington 2. I think that's where she was being ushered around the back of the Odeon at Leicester Square. So
maybe she's too big for Live with Brian.
Maybe.
Oh no, I think she would probably she'd do it. But like, yeah,
as long as you don't swear, Brian, because she got upset with Sanjeev because he said something like he went, "I never fucking thought fellow Benjamin would give me an award" or something like that, and she pulled him to one side and said, "Did you have to swear?" So good job you didn't swear when you hugged her.
Yeah. So no swearing when she's on.
Just one last one. Did you learn anything at the Wine Society at uni?
I did not learn anything at the Wine Society at uni, except maybe that red and white don't make rosé. When I went to university, so I've gone from like a very like working class background, and I keep mentioning that it's almost like I've got a thing about it. And then I went to Exeter, which was like the most middle class thing I've ever seen. I mean, I've never seen so many gilets outside of like Grimsby docks. I thought life jackets, and you had this like hall where you go around and basically sign up for societies. And I'd already been given the heads up to sign like the musical ones. So I think like join like the university singers and the swing group and all that lot. And I was like, there was a group called Cantors, which was like a group of like 16 people singing 15th century Latin polyphony, which is literally like my dream. I was like, yes, please. I want to join that. And then I also just signed up to the rugby team, just because my mates did. I was like, I'll do that. Joined up to Cocksock, which is Cocktail Society, and then also Wine Society. And I don't know why I joined up to Wine Society, but it's one of them things I was like, well, I've got a new life now. I'm in Exeter. Do you know what I mean? I've got all these middle-class mates. I've got a mate called Roddy. Like, what? Do you know what I mean? His nickname was Dick Skipper. I was like, this is my new life now. Joined Wine Society thinking, we're going to have like sommeliers teach us all about wine. And it was basically, you would just go to a pub in Exeter and there'd be like a deal. It'd be £5 for a bottle of wine. You'd all get absolutely leathered. And then the roads, like Longbrook Street in Exeter would just be awash with just like loads of young kids just throwing up down the street. So, I didn't turn into Hugh Johnson. In fact, I think I've got his book here. Where is it? Hugh Johnson. I've got the Hugh Johnson wine. There it is. Where's it gone? I used to have that. Hugh Johnson's wine book. Where's he gone? I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, I've always wanted to get into wines. That is, it's never happened. So I just wonder where my wine book's gone. Anyway. Who cares? But yeah, so Wine Society taught me nothing. But still, I was saying to a friend of mine's wife earlier last year, I was like, I'd love to do a little wine course. You know what I mean? Just go away for a few days for independent kind of like sommelier and just teach me about wines. But I also get a really bad heartburn when I drink wine, so maybe not the best idea.
Well, you're not supposed to drink it. You're supposed to spit it out.
The wine?
Yeah.
What is the point?
So you don't get heartburn?
Nah, but then how are you supposed to get that lovely feeling in your belly? Do you know what I mean? How do you make the voices stop? Do you know what I mean?
Brian, I'll remind you that next time we're sitting having a bottle of wine of an evening, I'll remind you that you're supposed to spit it out after every mouthful.
I've done it twice, Lloyd, and I couldn't. I just couldn't do it. Once was in Chile at the United. I just got that Red Devil, as it's called in Spanish, contract, and I was just happened to be there, and we blagged our way in. Me and the scout just said, well, we were employees of United, but we weren't really anybody important, Yeah, but we got taken round, and they gave us, I think it was 4 red and 4 white, and lessons about it. That's why I learned about the grape Carmenere, because you can't get Carmenere in Europe because it died out.
Right.
You used to only get it in South America. Well, he could then. Anyway, they said, so he'd stood it and he'd swill it round and he'd spit it out into this posh jug. Anyway, I take my first sip of the first white wine. I thought, this is just lovely. I can't spit this out. This is just, sorry, I can't spit this out. So I just drunk them. And then the next time I did it was in the holiday in Italy a few years in Tuscany. And we were in this vineyard, stayed in this vineyard, and we went booked in to go to the wine tasting and olive oil tasting, and there was a French couple there doing it, right? And I had to sit. They were sitting facing me, and I had to sit to the side on a bench to the side because they were annoying me so much. This French couple, to thinking they were like the best thing, the dog's bollocks, and they were drinking, spitting it out, and I was like, I can't spit this out. It's just beautiful Italian wine. I'm not spitting this out. And And then it got to the olive oil, and the girl says, "Oh, just be careful with this one. It's a bit strong." I thought, "That won't be a problem." I threw this olive oil back. Well, I tell you what, it caught right in the back of my throat, and I nearly spat it all out onto the two French couple that was sitting across from me. I was choking. There was tears running down my face. My mouth was on fire, But this, I thought, that olive oil, it's not like any olive oil you can get out of Aldi, So I'd recommend you go, definitely go and find out things about it, So it's funny. It's quite funny just to if you're ever at any dinner parties, just to be coming out with pish about wine,
Well, I think hopefully I went to Australia last year, and if I go back again, I'd love to go to Hunter Valley and do all that, have a little taste. Although to be fair, you get some decent ones down in the south of England as well, like down in Hampshire and Sussex. You can go to them. Yeah. So for now, I actually did an intolerance test last week, and basically I can't eat or drink anything. Essentially, is what it said. So.
Well, begs the question: what did you go for the test?
Do you know what I was hoping to say? I'd open to say, like, look, cut out this one ingredient and you'd be 5 stone 8. And I'm like, great. But like, you've got to cut out pretty much everything and it's going to be a shit life. So I was like, okay, fine. So yeah, I don't know why I did it, but here we are.
Lesson learned.
Life with Brian, life with Brian, life with Brian.
It's that time in proceedings where we roll out one of our godforsaken, convoluted quizzes dreamt up by a man who really should be doing other, better things. With Lloyd here, we thought we'd call this one Return to Paradise, and here's why. Lloyd recently starred in the BBC comedy drama of the same name, and as you most probably know, Celtic fans affectionately call their home ground Paradise. Someone who famously returned to Paradise in recent years is the current Celtic manager, Brendan Rodgers, a man famous for his suntan and motivational quotes. So what you both have to decide is whether the following soundbites can be attributed to Brendan or the eponymous fictional manager from another of Lloyd's TV credits, Ted Lasso. It's the usual 5 goes each in the penalty shootout format, and if you think the quote is one of Brendan's, please say Rodgy. And if you believe the words of wisdom came out of Ted Lasso's mouth, please say dodgy. Do you both understand?
Yeah, just make sure that you count the words. I don't want him complaining that there's more words in his questions than in his mind.
I'll let the listeners do the work here.
There's no time limit on this.
Okay, Lloyd, you're our guest, so you get to step up to the spot first. Your starter for 10 is, I've always said that you can live without water for many days, but you can't live for a second without hope.
That is dodgy.
Pressure's got to you on the first kick. That is a Rodgy.
What?
Just one of many examples of David Brent-esque faux sincerity there from Mr. Rodgers.
I don't believe that either.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, don't doubt Mark's research when it comes to these quizzes. It's like you when it comes to our guests.
I'm just right. Okay, I'm going to get about coming out with spurious things like that as well now.
Mm-hmm.
So, Brian, you get underway with taking on a challenge is a lot like riding a horse. If you're comfortable while you're doing it, you're probably doing it wrong.
Dodgy.
Dodgy?
Dodgy.
Yeah. Correct. That beauty is all Ted's work.
Okay, Brian, you've taken an early 1-0 lead. So, Lloyd, you've got to catch up now. Your second penalty is, there's 2 buttons I never like hitting, and that's panic and snooze.
I'm going to say Rodgy.
Oh, no, again, you've missed. That's another one from Ted's back catalogue there.
Okay, this is number 2 for you, Chock, isn't it? And it is, I believe in hope. I believe in believe.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's got to be Rodgy.
No, I thought it was when I looked down, but it's dodgy.
Is it dodgy?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
It's like a share lyric.
Yeah, it is. All right, so you're still in with a shot here, Lloyd, and your third one is, we play with 11 men, other teams play with 10 men and a goalkeeper.
Rodgy.
That is a Rodgy. Yeah, well done. You're back in the game. That's ones each now. What's he even on about in that one? Not even sure.
Well, they'll tell you this: the result for Lloyd being a goalkeeper, will appreciate. There's always, when I first started doing coaching, they would say, "What formation do you like? 4-4-2, 4-3-3, 4-5-1, or whatever?" Until the goalkeeping coach piped up, so you're all saying the same thing. It should be 1. And he was like, no humour involved in it whatsoever. And you go, right, very good, right. So that's what all goalkeepers get annoyed about that. And now, of course.
Well, I reckon now there's probably some managers that consider their goalkeeper as part of the back 5 or back 4.
Well, yeah.
What are we on now? We're on number 3, aren't we?
Yeah.
Brian, so number 3 on your card is, I believe a young player will run through a barbed wire fence for you. An old player looks for a hole in the fence.
Roger.
Yeah, it was. It was, yeah.
Who was he referring to?
Interesting views on youth development there. I mean, I don't know who he was referring to. Do you, Mark? I don't know where you got these from, but...
No, but that may be the Brian McClare school of youth development there, and how he saw how we saw Michael Keane come through and make it as a professional. I know. Anyway, Lloyd, your 4th penalty is, I've heard folks say...
What about Garner?
Well, okay. Well, sometimes, there's always one. Right, Lloyd, I've heard folks say that if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. Well, I've got to disagree. I love what I do, and I work incredibly hard.
See, for me, it's the folks, because you could actually hear both Ted Lasso and Brendan say folks. A bit folksy. I'm going to say dodgy.
Oh, you needed that one, and you've buried it.
Yeah, great bit of logic there.
Yeah, that is Ted Lasso. Okay, so what's that? Is that 2-2? I think it is.
I'm too worried reading ahead to this next question. Could you throw me one of your...
2-2. I've taken 4.
Yeah. Okay, penultimate penalty, Brian.
Yeah, the mastermind word counter.
Yeah, I need to miss this.
Penultimate penalty, Brian. I use a quote with players: per aspera ad astra, which is Latin for through adversity to the stars.
That was a pizza from Zizou's.
I use a quote with the players: per aspera ad astra, which is Latin.
Roger.
It is indeed.
Oh my God, I can't believe it.
Yeah, Brendan uses Latin.
Fucking hell.
It's the variation of the RAF motto to G up his players, apparently. The pain on your face, right?
Okay,
I'm
so
just trying to imagine Alex Ferguson coming out with things like that. That's why,
Yeah.
Anyway.
Right, Lloyd, this is your final spot kick, and you need this to at least make Chalky score the last one to win. It is. I've always worked along with the statistic that if you can dominate the game with the ball, you have a 79% chance of winning the game.
Roger.
Yes, it is a Roger.
Oh, that was too football-y for Lasso.
Brian, even with your background in statistics, that must be making your head spin.
All of them have.
So what is that statistic, sorry?
He says that if you can dominate the game with the ball, you have a 79% chance of winning the game. So whether that's a statistic or just some random notion that's popped in his head, who knows?
Well, they say 56% of statistics are made up on the spot, don't they? So I think
maybe it's just something, a quote that he's dreamt of when he's been lying under the UV tubes.
So does that mean Brian needs this one to make it a draw?
Needs this one to win, yeah. No, this one to win.
I can't get beat now.
This one to win.
Okay.
I believe. That's what it means.
You close the quiz out with, I will leave no stone unturned in my quest, and that quest will be relentless.
Dodgy.
Oh, no. Roger.
No, my God.
Basically said basically said the same thing twice there. I will leave no stone unturned in my quest, and that my quest will be relentless.
Leaving no stone unturned.
I'm going to have to pay more attention to what he says, because that is funny.
Well, you're at Celtic now and again, aren't you?
I don't listen to them. I don't watch anything to do with what the managers say, though.
Well, you will now.
I'm amazed the players do, to be honest. Okay, so that was a 3-3 draw. We don't have a tiebreaker because I can't be asked. So, as is now customary, we can't let a guest go without finding out a little bit more about them in our quickfire Focus On feature, inspired by the player profile interviews from Shoot and Match magazines of the olden days. So, Lloyd, are you ready to reveal a bit more about yourself?
Yes, I am.
Okay, a reminder that some of these questions were put before Brian in several features when he was still playing. So, here we go. Full name?
Lloyd John Griffith.
Birthplace and date?
Grimsby, October 1983.
Your favourite current player?
My favourite current player is Danny Rose. The Grimsby Town player.
Your least favourite away ground and why?
There's one just off the M1. They play in white. I can't remember what they're called. Shouldn't exist.
What car do you drive?
A BMW M3 Tourer M Sport Competition, Brooklyn Grey.
Is that the result of the midlife crisis?
Yes, it is.
Well, that's a lot of information. And for reference, Chucky's was an Escort XR3, you flash bastard. Favourite meal?
Pizza. Although I can't have anything that's in the pizza or on the pizza, apparently.
Have you ever been mistaken for another celebrity?
Yes.
Who was it?
Jack Black. Regular.
Jack Black. Who is your favourite cartoon character?
Favourite cartoon character? Probably, I don't know. Fireman Sam.
Fireman Sam. Chucky, do you remember what you answered this one when you got asked it?
No, could have been Foghorn Leghorn. I would now say Asterix the Gaul.
It probably was related to what your kids were watching at the time, and it was Inspector Gadget.
Oh, Inspector Gadget or Danger Mouse, yeah.
Yeah. What's the biggest disappointment of your career?
You know, it's a bit deep. Biggest disappointment of my career.
And don't say coming on Live with Brian.
I would say playing in Craig Disley's testimonial at Grimsby Town's Blundell Park for a Grimsby Town game against a Grimsby Town team, coming on in the 45th minute and giving away a penalty in the 46th.
Okay, and the final one. What would you do if you could be invisible for a day?
We can't print this.
It's all right. No one's actually going to listen to this, so you can have at it.
What would I do? I think if I was invisible for a day, I would probably, I don't know. If I was invisible for a day, I was just thinking about lottery tickets, but that's like, I don't know. If I was invisible for a day.
What did?
What did Brian put?
He put that he would go to a cabinet meeting.
Yeah, see, that's smart.
That is smart, yeah. I was going to say that.
Well, surely now the answer to this, Lloyd, would be you'd go into a Brendan Rodgers pre-match team talk.
Very similar. And this, Chucky answered cabinet meeting when Margaret Thatcher was still the Prime Minister. So I imagine it's just as entertaining as pre-match talk from Brendan Rodgers.
I think this is quite boring, my one, but I'd quite like to be in Grimsby Town's dressing room at half-time. Changing room, dressing room, I don't know what they call it. I think I went a bit theatre there.
Yeah, no.
I'd quite like to go to Grimsby Town's dressing room at the interval and just see what's said. Do you know what I mean? But obviously, me being invisible, I wouldn't take away. What's he doing in the corner? Do you know what I mean? I'd say, like, I wouldn't mind being in a half-time team talk and just like, oh, wow. Do you know what I mean? No, there's no cameras, but you're just there taking it all in and knowing that all, everything's coming out. But maybe a Grimsby Town one, not a Celtic one.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll call it a day there then. And our first thanks, of course, go to Lloyd for coming along today. It's been an absolute pleasure, Lloyd. Thank you.
No, thank you for having me. It's been
Thank you, Lloyd.
What have you got coming up that our listeners can catch you on?
Well, what I would say is if you haven't watched already, pop over to iPlayer and watch Return to Paradise, which is the show that I did in Australia. I played Detective Senior Constable Colin Cartwright. That came out just before Christmas, so it's available on iPlayer. And then, if you want to follow me on any of the socials, it's Lloyd Griffith, and I'll put all my tour dates up there and singing stuff and all the crap that I do. So if you fancy that, and occasionally a photo of the BMW.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, if you want to keep an eye on how the hair goes as well, keep plotting how things are getting on.
Absolutely, yeah. And there's again, if anyone's thinking about having a hair transplant, there's a couple of videos on there and some stories and highlights, and hopefully that'll help you.
Brilliant. Brian, Matthew, thanks to you both.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Lloyd,
you all.
and thank you, Mark, for
Lloyd,
another.
that was brilliant.
Yeah, and thank you, Mark, for another terrific quiz. I don't know where you dredged them up from.
No, neither do I. Late nights and strong Turkish coffee, probably. And finally, thanks to you out there for being here again. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Leave a nice review if you can. That would be most appreciated. Follow us on X and Blue Sky at Brian McClare Pod, and come and say hello. So until the next one, cheerio.
Life with Brian, Life with Brian, talking films or music. Life with Brian, talking TV and food. Life with Brian, talking trivia and exercise. Life with Brian is different every episode. Life with Brian, talking politics and football. Life with Brian is different every episode. Life with Brian, Life with Brian.